Hey guys, Matt Hallquist here with the QuickBooks University, and I have Tom Aronica, the CEO and founder of Genie, with me today. And I wanted to walk through, or have Tom walk us through how Genie works and how it can actually streamline your operations and help you increase your cash flow. Those of you that know me, I'm big on helping businesses increase cash flow, and cash is king. It's simply the name of the game when you're in business. And so I wanted to introduce you to Genie, show you how it works, and show you how it can increase the cash flow in your business. So Tom, thank you so much for joining me today. And if you want to introduce yourself and just tell everyone a little bit about yourself, and then we can get into how this works.
Great, Matt. Well, I appreciate you having us, and anything that we can do to provide support in the accounting and bookkeeping community, ultimately that's what we're here to do. My name is Tom Aronica. I am the founder and CEO of Genie, and Genie is a very advanced accounts receivable and invoice automation tool that we built with really one goal in mind, and that's to help our clients get paid faster. And when you break it down, there's really two things that we focus on. One is really to help improve cash flow, to shorten that invoice to cash cycle. And the way that we do that is by standardizing and automating a lot of the busy work and the routine AR tasks. And along with that comes the reduction of the administrative work. So by automating those tasks and by having a computer take over the busy work, we can effectively reduce the administrative burden, and all the opportunity costs that come along with that.
Yeah, and Tom, not to interrupt, but what's interesting is about 2 weeks ago, my CPA firm, we took over the accounting for one of our existing clients, and it was interesting because I said to him, I said, okay, look, we need to plan out some short-term cash needs for the business, and we need to be looking at this. And I said, in doing so, we need to think about when money's going to be coming in the door. So can you, and I said to him, can you give me some idea as we're starting to build this, when your customers are paying you? And he said, well, I don't know. He said, money just shows up, and we just hope that we get money each day. And I thought, oh my gosh, you've got to be kidding me. And so this is a tool here that can substantially cut down on the administrative time, as well as it automates a lot of this function of collections and increases the cash flow for the business.
Yeah, and I think that when it comes to that, consistency is key.
Yep.
Oftentimes life just gets in the way. If you're sending a bunch of invoices every day, well, you have yesterday's invoices today, and you have the day before that's today as well. So being consistent about it is ultimately what really drives that customer behavior, gets your customers to take you seriously,
yep.
And ultimately is what improves that cash flow.
Most definitely. All right, go ahead. Didn't mean to interrupt you there.
No, not an interruption at all. I tend to ramble on, so cut me off anytime. A lot of times what I like to try to explain, and the picture I like to paint is this one here that you see in the screen now. And the way that I like to explain this is that, if you think of any business in the world that accepts a payment in arrears, so, not a retail store or a restaurant or a hospitality group, but a service-based business, a wholesale manufacturer, a B2B company where you're sending out an invoice and you're collecting a payment in arrears. These 5 things that you see on the screen here have to happen. One way, shape, or form. Maybe some people are using accounting software like Quickbooks to do some of it, or you have a Square device on your phone or using PayPal. But somewhere along the lines, these 5 things have to happen in order for you to collect your invoice. And those 5 things are obviously you have to create the invoice. Somehow you have to send it to the payee, assuming that they don't make that payment, because we all know how quickly consumers are to pull out their checkbook and pay an invoice as soon as they get
Right.
it. But assuming that they don't, somebody's got to follow up with them to make sure that they stay top of mind. You got to give them the ability to collect it. So maybe they're mailing you a check, or you're using that Square device I had mentioned. And then finally, once you collect it, you've got to go back to your accounting software and you've got to reconcile it so that way your books and records are clean, so that way when it comes time to send them over to Matt, he's not yelling at you at the end of the year.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So what I like to say what Genie does is Biller Genie takes over the rest of the back end of that process. So what's nice about Biller Genie compared to, some of the other AR solutions that you have out there is that Biller Genie integrates with your existing accounting software. So today we're integrated with QuickBooks Desktop, QuickBooks Online, and Xero. We're adding integrations to Accounting Suite, as well as some of the bigger ERP solutions that should be ready throughout the course of this year. And what's special about that is you don't have to change your workflow when you decide to start working with Biller Genie. If you've been creating invoices in QuickBooks for the last 10 years, keep creating invoices in QuickBooks. If you have memorized invoices, if you're using a third-party solution like T-Sheets to create invoices in QuickBooks, keep doing that. You don't have to retrain your staff. You don't have to learn any new software. There's no disruption. Everything that you're doing up until the point of creating the invoice remains exactly the same.
Okay.
And what Biller Genie is going to do is it's going to take over the process after the point of invoice creation. So we're going to customize that invoice on your letterhead with your colors and your logos. You're not going to be sending it out any longer from, Intuit's account or Square or Stripe or PayPal where, customers are seeing, the aggregates branding all over it. We're going to package it on your letterhead or the merchant's letterhead with your colors and logos. We're automatically going to send it out to the customer once you create that invoice. You can then go into Biller Genie and one time set up a recurring schedule that you want to use to nurture that payment and follow up with your customer. So you can follow up as often or as infrequent as you want, depending on the status and the age of the invoice.
Okay.
So you go into our system one time, you set up a follow-up schedule. You can do things like, automatically on the due date, we want to follow up, and every 5 days after the due date until the invoice is paid, we want to send a reminder. Most of our customers use this for escalation messaging. So you could send stronger messages as the invoices age beyond the due date. Through all of those messages, we're going to give the ability to make payments online. So we make it very easy for the customer to make payments. Today we support credit cards, debit cards, and ACH. We have multiple collection options, whether it be by a pay-by-one-click model or through the customer portal, which is another very important feature of our system. And then finally, once we collect that payment, we're going to go back into QuickBooks or whatever accounting software you're using, and we're going to close that invoice for you. So the actual physical process of reconciling that invoice, we're going to handle all of that. It's fully automated, and all you've got to do is create the invoice the same way that you've been doing it all along.
So, and I think this bears repeating, and you've said it a couple times. So literally, like in my office right now, I have an administrative person that prepares the invoices, and which, most companies do. And, so they just keep doing what they're doing, and then this system just takes over from there. Is that right?
It's literally that simple. Sometimes it's so simple that people don't believe us.
Nice.
The configuration to set up a new account literally takes less than 5 minutes. It is non-intrusive, non-disruptive. The system trains the customers themselves, or itself rather. And in this day and age, customers love receiving emails where they can just click a button and make a payment, not have to talk to anybody, not have to open up a checkbook.
Oh yeah, and it reduces that friction, that friction between, oh geez, they sent me an email, now I got to call and give a credit card number, or I have to, fill something out or click somewhere else or do something else. And it just, when you reduce that friction, it makes it much easier for a customer to pay.
Absolutely. So not only is it a better user experience and it's a more convenient user experience, but it's 24/7 and it drives self-service. So once you start adopting and your customers start adopting, let's say the customer portal as an example, next time a customer calls you to say, hey, can you resend me an invoice because I never received it? Now we could just direct them to the customer portal so that way they could print it or export it themselves and they've got access to it 24/7.
Okay, great.
So this is Biller Genie. I'm going to take you through a couple, things in here. For the sake of this conversation, Matt, what's a good website? What's your website? QuickBooks University?
Yeah, qbuniversity.org.
And if I could spell here today, Unibersity. So I'm using this as an example to show you how quickly we can customize the entire user experience. So one of the things that I had mentioned is that the entire user experience inside of Biller Genie is fully branded and labeled to the customer's brand. So I'm obviously doing this very quickly here, and so forgive the crudity of the model. But with just a few clicks of a mouse, I can go in and fully customize the entire user experience. So all of the emails, all of the reminders, all of the invoices, the receipts that go out, all of this is now branded with your colors and your logos. And I literally did it on the phone, on the side while I was talking to you here in just a matter of a few minutes.
Yeah.
Get us closer a little bit to your color red here, but you get the point.
Yeah, that looks close.
So all of the invoices, all of the payment pages, all of the customer portals now, this entire user experience is now fully branded with your colors and your logos. Obviously, these would match when we do it the right way, but
right.
Your colors and logos with just a few clicks of a mouse.
That looks great. Yeah.
So the real power behind our system is this that we call here our invoice messenger. And I'm going to take you through these just so that way you understand how they work, because this is really the nuts and bolts of the system. And what I like to say is think of this as your automated assistant, right? This is going to be your virtual assistant that works 24/7 for free.
Well, and let me ask you something real quick, Tom. So, I know QuickBooks Online has a lot of third-party apps that integrate quite well, but this also integrates with QuickBooks Desktop pretty seamlessly, doesn't it?
Yeah, so we're one of the only crazy people that decided to take the QuickBooks Desktop integration and bring it to the cloud. So most of the QuickBooks solutions that you see available for desktop are plugins inside the QuickBooks software.
Yep.
And in those scenarios, you're limited by the QuickBooks architecture. You're limited by, just how QuickBooks is built. So what we've done is we've been able to take the same synchronization options that we have for QuickBooks Online, where we're going to sync the customer and invoice database, and we've built that same solution for QuickBooks Desktop. So what that allows us to do is to always have the data in sync, but perform all of the business logic and workflow actions on our side in the cloud. So we're only limited by our creativity.
Nice.
So yeah, we do have an integration to QuickBooks Desktop, and it very, very powerful, works very, very well.
Which is great. I mean, that makes it so much more flexible, because that seems to be a limitation on a lot of different tools that I've tried to use with QuickBooks Desktop is that integration. So that's fantastic.
Yeah, we've been, our QuickBooks Desktop users absolutely love it because, like I said, there's just nothing like it else out there, or nothing else like it out there, rather. And oftentimes, one of the things that we hear from our customers is that, I can't believe how well it worked. If you look at our reviews online, that's kind of the common theme is, I can't believe it worked as well as it did.
Right. Too good to be true.
So it's an interesting story we always hear. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about these reminders. So we call these reminders, again, this is that virtual assistant. And the way that I like to explain this is that each of these reminders is an event. And if the reminder is on, when the event happens, this is the message that we send out. So each of these events have their own unique message type. You can customize the message however you'd like. You can do things in here like, welcome to our new invoicing portal, or to pay by, check, mail us a check to 123 ABC Street, or, if you want to pay us by Venmo, our handles at, the QuickBooks University.
Right.
You can control the messaging however you'd like in here. And on the right-hand side, you see a preview of what the email looks like. So the email, again, is fully branded with your colors, your logos. All of the reply addresses are going directly to your email address.
Okay.
When we send the email out, there's essentially 3 calls to action. The first, obviously, is to view the invoice, where they can view the invoice, print it, export it to a PDF, email it to themselves, or, of course, pay it, which is the second call to action. When they click on pay, it's taking them over to a branded payment page. What I like to say here is the better the user experience is going to be determined by the better the data in your QuickBooks system. So any information that's filled out on the invoice, business name, address, city, state, zip, phone, email, if you have all of that pre-filled on the customer file in QuickBooks, it's all going to be pre-filled for them in here.
Okay.
So all about that whole pay by one click, making it easy for the customer, improving that user experience.
Yep.
The third call to action is to sign into the customer portal. So the customer portal is a big feature and a big enhancement to our system that takes all of your QuickBooks information and makes it available and consumable online for your customers. This is typically a $19.95 fee, but because of our relationship with the QuickBooks University, we're going to be giving all of the listeners and readers the customer portal for free.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's fantastic.
Yeah. Now imagine having your own customer portal with just a click of a mouse. This link here we provide right in our application. You can put this on your website. Let's say you just put a little button on your website that says client login, and you direct it to this page. And now with just a few clicks of a mouse, you have your own branded customer portal. And I'm going to show you what this looks like from the client's perspective. But when the customer logs in, I'm going to hop over to a sample account. When the customer logs in, they can see open invoices. They can reprint open invoices. They can pay off multiple invoices at once. If you allowed partial payments, they can make partial payments. We do have the ability to accept credit card and ACH, as I mentioned. Past payment history, so all prior payments that they've made through the system, as well as invoices. They'd be able to switch between jobs and sub-customers if you had. And then, of course, store all of their payment accounts on file, so both for credit cards and ACH, all through the customer portal here that you get for free with just a click of a mouse.
Very nice. That looks great.
One of the things I really love about this is the ability to authorize ACH transactions. So, through our system, we do provide the ability to support ACH processing. One of the biggest problems that we hear from our merchants is having to collect those ACH authorization forms.
Yep.
And do we do it via email or paper mail or fax? Well, we've built the ability to actually accept the authorization form right here online. So it's built right into the customer portal. It's a fully electronic DocuSign signature. We store all of these on file for you securely, and now you have your own electronic, authorization form collection system.
That is, that right there is all worth it, because you're right. That is a complete pain to gather those forms.
Yeah, and this is all pre-approved by NACHA, so the governing body behind the ACH network. So in the event of any disputes, in the event of any customer disputes, we always are able to use these forms to show that you had prior consent and proper authorization,
right,
to charge their cards.
Very
or
nice.
their accounts rather. So taking you back into the merchant portal here. Let's talk about some of these reminders and how these work. So, I talked about in our demo that we were looking here that everything up until the point of creating the invoice is going to remain exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
So we had talked about, creating manual invoices, if you have memorized transactions or recurring invoices, or even if you're using a third-party system to pump the invoices into QuickBooks, all you have to do is create the invoice and hit save and close. Prior you may have been hitting save and send. Your only change in workflow is that all we're going to do is save that invoice.
Okay.
Once that invoice is created, we're going to see that a new invoice has been created in the system, provided that this reminder is on. All we're going to do is see that reminder is created and then send this email out to the customer automatically. Invoice updated works just like it sounds. So any updates or changes to an invoice, a change in a line item, a finance charge, a late fee, if you changed a due date, all you have to do is go in, modify the invoice as you normally would, hit save. We're going to see that an invoice was updated, and we're going to automatically send this message out. No buttons that you need to press, no email clients that you need to open, nothing that you need to do other than save the invoice just like part of your normal workflow.
Okay. So it just gets triggered and sends an updated invoice.
You got it.
Okay.
This works really well for partial payments as well. So if you allow partial payments in our system, that's a setting that you can either decide to, enforce the payment in full or allow a partial. But one of the nice things about the invoice updated is that when there is a partial payment, we're automatically going to send in an update to them, with a new invoice balance.
Okay.
The paid reminder is really cool, not only because we're going to send this out for invoices that you collect through our system, but we're also going to send this out for invoices that you collect on your own. So this is a copy of the invoice with the paid stamp on it. So imagine now, getting receiving a cash payment for an invoice, going into QuickBooks, receiving that payment for cash, and we see that invoice went from open to closed, and we still send out a copy of the invoice with the paid stamp on it. Nothing that you needed to do, no buttons that you needed to press. We're not even involved in the transaction, nor do we receive any revenue on the transaction, but we're still going to handle the busy work for you to try to make this nice and easy for you.
Yeah, that's a nice little touch.
Upcoming payment and payment due are really great for those businesses that offer payment terms. So if you're, let's say, on a net 30 payment term, upcoming payment is that whole concept of dangle a carrot instead of a stick.
Yeah.
By giving a gentle nudge before the due date, it actually helps to collect payments early.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously on the due date. So, if you can imagine an invoice that's on a net 30 due date, no longer need to send reminders in your calendar or, put a note to follow up 30 days later. The system's automatically going to do it for you.
Okay, good. Good.
The payment overdue, so the next two are really my favorite. And what payment overdue it does in a very intuitive way is a way to handle escalation messaging as that invoice ages past the due date. So by default, we set it up for every 5 days after the due date until the invoice is paid. This is going to nurture that customer and try to drive that payment home. Now, you can do things like this, where every 5 days, or rather, let's say every 15 days after the due date until it's 30 days late, right? So during the first 30 days, we're going to send 2 messages and maybe say, you're late, right? And then in the second month, maybe you want to be a little bit more frequent. So we're going to send it every 10 days from 30 to 60 days late. And now we're going to say you're seriously late.
Well,
right?
That's, like you talked about the consistency. I mean, this is where that consistency comes in, because far too often, people will, let's say, call or send an email when the invoice is late, and they send it one time.
Exactly right.
The customer, you get all sorts of stories like, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, I'll get that paid, or checks in the mail, whatever the case may be. And then you don't see the check. And then you realize 30 days later, you know what, they still haven't paid. And so this consistency is key to getting that money in the door.
Exactly right. And a lot of times it's out of sight, out of mind. So what this does is it drives that consistency, and it also allows you to automatically handle escalation. So, as you want to strengthen your message, as it gets to a point where it's unacceptable and then even uncollectible. So, we have customers that use this for automatic disconnect notices. We have property managers that use it for automatic eviction notices.
That's a great idea. Yeah.
Yeah. So, think about how you can use this, just from a messaging standpoint, based on certain time frames. We have, alarm dealers who send disconnect notices for the fire departments if, payment isn't received within a certain period of time.
Yeah. Or even collections. Hey, you have, up until 10 more days, or we're going to send your account to collections.
Yeah. So, exactly right. And one of the things that we're looking at building in here is the ability to automatically do that for you, where you can mark an invoice as not collectible, and we'll automatically escalate it for you.
Oh, that's nice.
So that's hopefully by the end of the year we'll have that for you.
Very nice.
So before I talk about the upcoming late fee here, we have to talk about late fees in general. So another nice feature that we built into this is our late fee manager. And the reason that we built this is that a lot of these accounting softwares don't make the collection of late fees easy.
Right.
And when we talk about, QuickBooks and Xero, everybody puts a 1.5%, per month finance charge on their invoices, but nobody actually ever charges it. And I always
right. Yep.
scratched my head and wondered why. And I found it out. When we were building this, I figured it all out. And the reason is that, so what QuickBooks does is, one, you have to calculate it yourself.
Yeah.
And you've got to track it yourself. So if you want to apply a late fee every 30 days, you've got to remember to go in there every 30 days, first of all, and do it.
Yep.
Second of all, you've got to apply it and calculate it yourself. So you got to do the actual math. And then the third, and I think the most confusing part about all of this, is that QuickBooks creates a second invoice for a financing charge.
Yep.
Which to me never made any sense, because if you can't get the first invoice paid, why are you creating a second one?
Right. Right.
So we built our own late fee manager to try to solve some of those problems and try to make it easy for businesses to assess and collect late fees. And with literally just a click of a mouse, it's quite literally press this button to turn it on or off, you can that quickly be charging late fees. And the way that our late fee manager works is you can set the terms and conditions right in here. So whether you want to charge a recurring fee, whether it's going to be a fixed amount or a percentage, you can determine the schedule that you want to charge those late fees on, and we're automatically going to monitor it for that time period. We're going to automatically calculate it every 30 days as those invoices age. We're going to add the notices to the memo field of the invoice, as well as the reminders themselves. So all of those messages that are getting sent out, the customer is well aware of your terms and conditions for your late fees.
Okay.
And then if a late fee is ever assessed, we're going to go back into QuickBooks into the same invoice. We're going to add a new line item for the late fee, and we're going to book it to a separate revenue account so you can track that revenue separate from your regular fee for service.
Very nice. Yeah. That's a great feature right there.
And quite literally, it's a click of a mouse button, to turn it on. Now, the reason that I came here was because of our upcoming late fee reminder, which in all honesty is my favorite reminder that we have built into the system. And again, goes back to that concept of dangle a carrot instead of a stick. This is where you're going to send a notice to the customer before the late fee is going to hit. So, if you're on that net 30 schedule, on the 25th day, this is automatically going to send a message out to the customer saying, look, we really value your relationship. We know that you're 25 days late. Your invoice is going to be 30 days late in a couple days. We don't want to charge you this late fee of $25, but if we don't get your payment, we're going to have to. Please make your payment now so we don't have to charge you this fee.
Right. And that creates that sense of urgency for people that, geez, I don't want to get this late fee. I'm going to go ahead and pay this now.
Absolutely. And if you have two vendors that you owe $1,000 to, and one's going to charge a late fee and one isn't, who are you going to make your payment to
Exactly.
first?
Yep. That's exactly right. And I like that approach, letting them know in advance, because a lot of times a late fee will just be assessed, or you will just threaten to assess it and then not assess it. But in this situation, you're saying, hey, you can avoid this if you pay this now, but then the system just does it for you automatically.
Yep, absolutely. And
that's great.
Yeah, so it's going to try to get them from paying it, and then guess what? In the unlikely scenario that it gets assessed, as soon as that invoice is updated, the invoice updated reminder is going to go out with the new fee.
Yep.
So it's fully automated. All happens in the background.
I like it.
Awesome. So let's see what else I can show you before I open it up for questions. But another great feature that we have in here, and obviously all of this is being imported from a sample QuickBooks file. But one of the nicest features that everybody loves is what we call autopay. So a lot of times what we've seen is many of these payment systems that you have out online, even PayPal and authorize.net and some of the payment systems that you may have heard of, they give you the ability to recur a transaction. So very easily you can go in and you could say, we want to build this card or this bank account for $75 on the 5th of every month. Well, that's great, and that certainly eliminates some of the busy work, but every month, if you have 1,000 invoices that are on recurring, somebody needs to go back into QuickBooks and record those either invoices or sales receipts.
Right.
You got to sit and copy and paste 1,000 times. So while we've done and automated some of the process, and at least we're not pulling a shoebox out of a filing cabinet with credit card numbers on it, we still have to do that manual reconciliation process.
Yep.
What our auto pay feature does is it accomplishes both of those in one step. So with auto pay, what we say is instead of recurring the transaction, we're going to recur the invoice. So similar how most people have the memorized invoices and the recurring invoices set up in QuickBooks today as it is, what our system does here is it recognizes that a particular customer may be set up for auto pay, and anytime an invoice is created for that customer, we're going to recognize that they're set up for auto pay. We're going to automatically charge their card, send out a copy of a receipt, send them the invoice with a paid stamp on it, and then go back into QuickBooks and close the invoice all in one step. It's fully automated, and you get both the accounting ledger and the transaction on recurring without having to do any of the work.
That's nice. Very nice.
Another really nice thing is that all of these settings that we talked about is, I'm going to use the word overrideable on a customer by customer basis. So any specific customer, if you didn't want to send receipts or reminders, or you want to turn late fees off, you can handle that on a customer by customer basis and override any of the global settings on a specific customer basis.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, because there are, whether it's good or bad, there's some customers maybe you've had them a long time and you don't want to, charge a finance fee, whatever the case may be. So that's good. You can turn that off for them.
Yep, absolutely. So talk today about integrations, QuickBooks Desktop Online and Xero. We also integrated to a couple vertically integrated applications. QuickBooks Online and Xero is as simple as putting in your username and password. Quite literally, it synchronizes in less than a couple seconds. With QuickBooks Desktop, we connect that through Web Connector, and we give you the ability to download the configuration file right inside our application without having to navigate to a third party. So make integrations to these applications also a cinch.
So really, this software, and Tom, I've known you for a little bit, and I've talked about this software before, but this has been incredibly helpful to walk through, a lot of the details of how this works and how this saves people time. And, so really, there's no downside to using this. I mean, is there a cost up front? How do you sign up for for Biller Genie? How do you get this?
Yeah, so the system itself is free. A lot of people don't believe me when I say that either, but the actual Biller Genie software is free. I was trying to see if I could take you into a demo account here, but the reminders, the integration with the software applications and the software companies, the late fee manager, all of that is free. And if you wanted to use the system, not collect payments through the system and just use it as an automated invoice messenger, you can, and it would literally cost you nothing. The only time you'd ever pay us a fee is if you collect the payment through our system. We support, as I had mentioned, credit, debit, and ACH. For the credit card side, it's just 2.90 and 25 cents per transaction. So it's actually less than some of the competitors like Square and Stripe and PayPal and even Intuit themselves.
That's definitely that's a fantastic rate.
Yeah, and it's no gimmicks, no nonsense. We even have PCI compliance built into our application, so you could see here once your account is approved, you can actually validate your PCI compliance right within the app and answer that questionnaire that Visa requires once a year right within the app, and it's all included as part of the package.
Now, how do you charge on the ACH processing as well?
We do. ACH is 75 basis points and 25 cents per transaction, so 0.75% and 25 cents is about a quarter of the price of credit cards.
Which is absolutely minimal with the amount of time that this saves you on the administrative side of having to collect payments through an outside system, or to having to deposit checks, or having to do any number of other manual processes to apply those payments to a customer in QuickBooks and have it update and do all that. This is these costs are nothing. I mean, a lot less than what you're going to pay in any other outside system, but it saves you so much time on the back end on the administrative side.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's where the real, look, on a transaction basis, sure, we're going to be less expensive, marginally plus or minus a little bit. But, where the real benefit here, where the real savings is, the $80,000 a year employee that you're able to repurpose, 50% of their labor costs and get them focusing on building the business and growth as opposed to, the immaterial, mundane, routine busy work that, we can do better anyway.
Like applying payments to customer accounts in QuickBooks.
Right. Like copying, pasting, 1,000 invoices a month.
Yep.
Yep. That's just a waste of time.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Most definitely. So how do people go and sign up for the account? Well, first of all, I'm going to put a link below because you can go to billergenie.com and sign up for an account, but with the link that you talked about before, there's when people go through that link and sign up for an account, there's some additional items that they're going to get there that we talked about before. That customer portal, is that right?
That's right. Yeah. So what I'd suggest, Matt, is post that link here and post it in your on your social media channel.
Yep.
Anybody that signs up through those links will automatically get that customer portal for free. So that's a $19.95 a month value, and that'll be grandfathered for the life of the account. So it's a really, really big benefit that eliminates all SaaS fees on the application altogether. So highly encourage anybody that wants to take a look, click on that link. Even if you're not buying now, sign up, set up an account. It's free. That way, once you have that free account, it's grandfathered there for the life. And if you decide 6 months from now, at least you still have the, access to the free customer portal.
Yeah, definitely. Great idea. So Tom, I want to thank you so much for walking us through this today. Everyone in QuickBooks University land appreciates this time and walking through this. And guys, I'm going to post this link below this video, depending on where I post this in social media. There will be a link. Click that. And like Tom said, sign up for the account now because, one, it doesn't cost you anything. And two, you're going to get, for the lifetime of signing up for that account grandfathered in, you're never going to have to pay that $19.95 a month. So Tom, I want to thank you very much. And any closing remarks before we shut this down?
Well, I certainly want to appreciate you for having us here, and anything that we could do to support you or the QuickBooks University community, that's certainly what we're here for. We're open to suggestions. We love feedback from our customers and partners, and anything that we could do to continue to help and support the accounting and finance community, please let me know.
All right. Thanks, Tom. Appreciate it, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, sir. We'll talk to you soon.
All righty.